Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be why being friends is not the way to get your ex back. So, this particular email is actually from a guy. He says he's been following me for a while now, and he listened to 3% Man 6 or 7 times. However, because of the place he was at emotionally, he was stuck under the illusion of action, thinking he had to do something. He had to prove himself to his girl. He basically got rejected, and then since he's in the mindset, I got to do something, I get her to like me again, I got to get her to give me another chance, that he was focused on proving that he had changed and she should give him another chance. And so because of that, obviously, those of you that know my work really well know that that's just not the way you go about trying to get an ex back. When you're stuck in friend zone, as I discussed in 7 principles to get an ex back, and what happened with this guy and what typically happens with most dudes is because women do the breaking up about 75% of the time, whether that's filing divorce or ending the relationship. It's usually the women that end it. They're ready to leave. They're over it. They're at the point where their romantic interest is so low that it's pretty easy for them to leave. And guys are usually really shocked, like this dude is, how quickly a woman moves on. Because typically when she leaves, she's over it. And so when she friend zones you, you don't keep pursuing, because if you keep pursuing a woman who says friends only, then what you're doing is you're acquiescing through your actions that you're okay with being stuck in friend zone. And if you really want sex and romance, but you hang out with her in a platonic way and you agree to it, then you're making her the man in the relationship. And all that does is make it really easy for her to move on with Chad Thundercock or whoever she's involved with at this particular time. And so this guy writes in after everything's completely gone sideways, and she tells him that she's met somebody new and she really wants to give it a go with this new guy, and that the only thing that's ever going to happen between the two of them is friends only. So now he's like, I feel like a complete ass because I didn't listen to you. But he wanted to write this in hopes that he could discourage other people from doing the same and not listening to the instructions that, as he says, he's old enough to know better. But because he was in a scarcity mindset, he was fearful he was going to lose her. He's looking for justification to continue pursuing and chasing and doing something, if you will, also known as the illusion of action. And so he went and he searched, and he found a guy that didn't know what the hell he was doing or talking about. And so it justified his view that he needed to keep pursuing. And so he did it. And after the fact, again, he just feels like a complete ass and a chump for doing it on top of that. So let's go through this cautionary tale of what not to do when you've been dumped. He says, Hi, Corey. I've been following your videos for a while now, and I've listened to the audiobook 6 or 7 times. I'm in the UK and old enough to know better, but I listen to some other online get your ex back types whose advice turned out to be complete BS. I'm writing this hoping you'll make a video coaching newsletter about it so others don't make the mistakes that I did. The reason you walk away and you go no contact is she's saying, hey, how about friendship and blue balls? How about being my gay male girlfriend? And the strongest negotiating position is being able to walk away and mean it. And so what this guy basically did was, hey, sure, that sounds great. I'll be friends first because some dude on the internet told me that that's a way to get your ex back. And so he continues on with his pursuit. She looks at it and goes, okay, well, he's okay with just being friends only. So that's that. But a man who loves and values himself and he wants sex and romance, or he wants to keep his family together, he's going to be like, I'm not down with this. I don't think so. We're not going to live together while you go out and date other dudes or see if you can find somebody else. It's not, you're either in or you're out. You either want to be together with us and your family and your kids, or you want to be a single girl, and then you got to explain to our family why you're leaving. And so another thing in these cases is the guy should not be moving out or leaving the apartment, because if he does, if you say you want your ex back and then you move out, well, your actions show that you're cool with the relationship ending. I know it's counterintuitive because the women will tell you to and ask you to leave, but it's often a test. Do you really mean what you say? Do you really want to fight for your relationship, as they say. Because if you want to keep the relationship going, you'll stick around, and it's the woman that leaves. And if she leaves, well, then she's got to explain to the family and the kids and everybody else why she broke the family up. Versus when you move out and you leave and then you keep hanging out as friends, you make it really easy for her to move on because she knows you're always in the background hanging out. And worst case, if she can't find anybody else, she can always go back to you. But when you love and you value yourself, you're like, no deal is possible. I'm walking away from the negotiating table. Call me if you change your mind. But he didn't do that in this case. So he says, I met my ex about 2.5 years ago and we broke up 9 months ago. So we were together about 20 months or so in total. We met just after my dad had a terminal cancer diagnosis and she stayed with me through his illness and ultimate passing. Even though that time we had a great relationship and she was the one who initially asked me out after our first date, she was initiating around 90% of the time and showed a really high interest level. Well, he was the man. He was in his masculine. She was doing the pursuing, most of it. He says, after my dad died, however, I became depressed, consumed with my grief, and withdrew and just turned in on myself. I became unavailable to her emotionally and physically. I started drinking a lot. I stopped courting her, and her understanding and compassion reached its limit, and she ended the relationship last summer. I tried everything I could to get the relationship back. Well, that's the problem. You're trying to keep somebody that doesn't want to keep you. And what happened was, because of what happened with your father, you let it completely wreck you emotionally, physically. You started drinking. In other words, you were no longer the man that she fell in love with and wanted to be in a relationship. This totally destroyed and devastated and diminished you. And you're supposed to be the stronger one. You're supposed to be the one that's more masculine than she is. And so, unfortunately, I mean, it's a sad tragedy losing your father, losing a parent, because I know what that's like. But life goes on. We're all going to die. We're all living in bodies that are going to die. Everybody you love, everything you build, that beautiful house that you spent so much time renovating or building, eventually it's going to get old and it's going to get bulldozed. And, 100, 200 years from now, it's probably not going to be around anymore. There'll be something else in its place. The kids you have, they're all going to die too. The great-grandkids, they're all going to die. Everything eventually in a long enough timeline turns to dust. And so when these things happen, you just can't let it wreck you. And if you do, if you stop the courtship, if you stop the romance, if one bad thing happens in your life and you stop making your girl feel heard and understood and you stop dating and courting her and you want to feel sorry for yourself, every woman has her time limit. You get about 6 to 12 months of that. I've said it over and over. I've done phone sessions with guys who've been married for multiple decades. And they go through a difficult time. It's a health challenge, or they lose a parent or both parents or whatever. Something happens tragic in their life, and they just let it absolutely demolish them. And if they've been with their wives 30, 40 years, doesn't fucking matter. If you act like a bitch, women are going to treat you like a bitch and leave you eventually. You typically, on average, get about 6 to 12 months to wallow in your sorrow and whatever else is going on. But when it gets beyond that, like I said, if you get to 12 months, you're lucky. Most women they're going to be looking for the exits if they haven't already left at that point. So as a man, you just can't behave this way. You can't let one setback in life completely derail your life. And unfortunately, that's what this particular guy did. And she tapped out. He says, I listened to a YouTuber who I won't name. He says, okay, I will. Clay Andrews, but I guess you will censor that. Well, I don't know who that dude is. Never heard of him. There's a gazillion guys out there. But if this guy Clay Andrews is telling men who get dumped to agree to be friends only while you watch your girlfriend or ex-girlfriend or your wife go and fuck other dudes, it's like that guy doesn't understand how attraction works. So he's talking out his butt. He says his advice consists of going down the being friends route and friend zoning yourself to work on the emotional connection. Sounds like a chick, or maybe it's some gay dude. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. He says, I did that. I tried to show how I had changed. So he's trying to prove himself to her. Men, if a man is a man and he's in his masculine, he's awesome, he's a great catch, he ain't trying to prove himself to anybody. It's self-evident. And the fact that you're trying to prove yourself to her already shows that you're giving up. The number one most important thing that women find attractive in men is confidence. And you're trying to prove to this girl, oh, I'm a man, trust me, I've changed. It's like, well, be that. Move on. If she doesn't want to keep you, you're like, hey, give me a call if you change your mind. And you go out and you date the hottest, baddest, younger girl that you can find. And have a good time. Move on with your life. Because that's when she sees that you've moved on and you're having a good time and she goes out on a bad date or two, she's like, oh, maybe I screwed up. And as the months go by, the weeks go by, it's typically when they start coming back. But when you just continue to wallow in your sorrow and you beg and you plead and you chase, or in this case, you agree to be friends, it's like you haven't done anything to prove yourself. You're showing her that you're just a little boy and you want her to be your mommy. And you treat her like a celebrity, she's going to treat you like a fan. He says, I did that. I tried to show how I had changed, how everything that happened towards the end of our relationship was a symptom of my grief, and that everything would be perfect if only we would try again. You never try to keep somebody that doesn't want to keep you. He says, we hung out a few times, no hooking up, crappy daytime meetups to walk her dog and only ever getting the cheek at the end of it. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get anywhere with that. Just imagine that you'd never had any sex or anything and you continue to, and you never dated, and you hang out with a woman like this, you're not going to get anywhere. And all you're going to do is hear stories about her going and sleeping with Chad Thundercock and her being upset with the fact that he doesn't want a relationship with her or he's horrible to her. If you were a catch, you'd be acting like Chad Thundercock. You'd just moving on, living your life. And you'd be letting the best girl win you over and convince you why you should commit to them. If you're a prize and you're a catch, that's what you do. If you're not, well, then you chase and you beg and you plead and you grovel. And it's cute in movies, but it doesn't work in the real world. And this guy, Clay, whatever his fucking name is, sounds like he lives in a world of fantasy. He says, we spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago and said that while she wanted me in her life, I needed to accept that we would only ever be friends now. See what happens is like he spent 9 months agreeing to this, made it really easy for her to completely get over this guy and look at him and think, this is pretty pathetic. Her ex-boyfriend is just hanging around, okay with being friends while she goes out on dates with other men and sleeps with other men, and all he gets is a peck on the cheek, and maybe she'll allow him to fix her toilet when Chad Thundercock clogs it up. He says, I lost my center, and I got a bit upset, and I feel like a complete fucking idiot for how I responded. We have not spoken since, and we had originally planned to go out to lunch over this Easter weekend. But now that is not going to happen. It's like, yeah, go out to lunch, which is a family thing during Easter, so you can get blue balls, and then she'll go home and have sex with Chad Thundercock. That's what a great plan. He says, my pursuit of this woman, because that's what it was, is now over forever. If a woman is always chasing you, you don't have to worry about getting dumped. And when you're always chasing her, especially when you've been friend zoned, all you get is blue balls and you get disrespected. And in the end of the day, you feel like a fucking chump. How could I have been so gullible? He says, I'm gutted, but I have to move on. I will never call or text or contact her again for any reason. Yeah, you should be following what's in 7 Principles to get an ex back. You lived in her frame. You lived in her world instead of her coming to submit and live in yours. You became the woman. You might as well have just given her a strap on and let her have her way with you. That's how you acted, dude. It's gross and it's disgusting and it's not masculine. I listened to the other guy in line because I wanted what he said to be true, but it has just left her dry, for me anyways, and me frustrated and alone. If I had followed the 7 Principles to get an ex back, I reckon I would have had a much better chance of this working out in my favor. As it is, I doubt I will ever hear from her again. Keep up the good work. Cheers, Bob. Well, thanks for that cautionary tale, Bob. And for those of you who haven't read 3% Man, go to understandingrelationships.com, subscribe to the email newsletter. And if you guys are not a paying members only subscriber yet, we have 6 additional video coaching newsletters that I am doing. Typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I've released 2 additional ones that are for paying members only on Spotify, on YouTube, and on my website, understandingrelationships.com. If you're watching this video on YouTube, in the description, there are links. If you subscribe to my website, you'll also get the email analysis, which I do in these video newsletters. And plus, there is a discount. If you pay an annual rate up front, you get a nice, I think it's like a 20-25% discount on the website. All you got to do is go to my website, click the premium tab. There's a video there. If you click the free ebook tab, my website tells you what to do. But you can follow me again on Spotify or YouTube, members only content. It's the same content everywhere. It's just with Spotify and YouTube, obviously you don't get the email analysis because those platforms, you just can't do those things. And so with understandingrelationships.com, you get the additional email analysis. So if you got a question or challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen on any page of my website, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.